Today I need to rebuild one of my mowers. This one is a Power Smart, and well, there's a cover that goes over the drive belt, and that drive belt is made of plastic and doesn't necessarily, it just keeps breaking. So when it breaks because of small sticks, there's only a little bit of clearance in between the blade and the actual plastic cover. So if you hit any kind of sticks whatsoever, which is normal, then you actually start to take chunks out of the actual cover, and then grass gets in here and takes this belt off, and it just doesn't disengage for the rear wheel drive here. It burns up the belt, and I actually just bought this belt. It was like 30 bucks, so I'm not trying to ruin that. And I do like the drive belt on it, so I'm going to fix it. This is the plastic cover that goes on it, and there's only it's upside down. It goes like that, and then there's only a little bit of clearance in between here and the blade. It's like real small, so as it mulches and churns all the grass clippings up, it starts to beat on everything here. So this is made of not that great of plastic. I went back in here before and actually did some plastic welding and rebuilt this. This was all cracked in the middle, and this was a bigger chunk of this was missing, but you can kind of see part of it here and all that. This time I'm going to rebuild it, but I'm going to rebuild it even better. First, I have to fill in that gap right now. The idea is to heat up the area and try to re-weld and then reinforce the plastic that is already there. But I can't find it online, so this is my option. Alright, so after the first round of melting plastic in, that's the first round. I still have a hole down here that I need to actually patch up, and a hole in there in the same corner there. But all this is flat, well, so to speak. I still have a little ding to work out here, and this is what it looks like. I have a lot more smoothing to do and reforming. Fill in those two holes for these two, and then I have one more trick that I want to do to actually reinforce this. All right, so after about an hour, hour and a half, maybe 3 hours of plastic welding, melting plastic and trying to shape it, this is what I've actually come up with as a final form. I tried to fix that hump that was in there, and I reinforced it a ton. Still a little bit warm, but flexing this, if you can tell, the metal isn't even flexing hardly. This is already a lot more rigid than what was on there. But I've got one more step that I'm going to use to actually reinforce this, which, if I can get this out of the way, I'm going to use, not sponsored by Minwax by any means, but when I used to put this on some wood pieces and it dried, you couldn't run your nail through it. It just wouldn't scratch whatsoever, let alone breaks. Hopefully, this laying around here, as you can see, it's kind of just a bit dusty. I'm going to go ahead and use this and apply it there, and hopefully that is enough of a shell to not throw this out of complete clearance for the belt that's supposed to ride pretty close in here and work pretty well. Hopefully. Let's see. Yeah, screwdriver over here. Oh, but screwdriver. Here's my screwdriver. Alright, here we go. So this is probably going to get messy, but it's a workbench. It's okay. I'm not worried about it. I'm going to finish this up, do a layer of this, and then flip it over, do a layer of this, and then go from there. And hopefully let this dry and it'll hold up more than what it was before. Alright, it is the next day. This is what it is. It's all dry. It's a little bit tacky right there, but overall, like, very dry. And I can already tell that it's a lot stiffer than it was before. I did paint coat the other side of it. Not looking for anything perfect whatsoever, especially with a foam brush, but just needed a coat of that polyurethane, which I'm going to throw one more coat on there. I think that's why I didn't really like it, because it was supposed to be clear gloss, but as you see, it is just, get any kind of coating on there and it is just ultra white. So didn't like it for my actual wood projects, but it did create a really good resistant coat to it. I'm going to paint this over one more time and try to actually get this to be a lot harder than what it was and not break anymore. Hopefully that'll be good enough, and it won't. But I'll put it back in service and see how it does. Alright, and it is the next day, and this is completely dry. Not exactly smooth, but it does have a protective coating, which is pretty darn hard. You can barely see my fingernail print in there. I'm going to go ahead and throw this back on the actual mower and put it to test here in a little bit, but before I actually go and cut my lawn, because it could use a cutting. Put this back together, and then I'm going to bring the Z in here. Give me a second, and I'll get right on that. Alright, it's pretty simple. It's just a few nuts and bolts. But this is the belt, and it gets jammed up, which, with this on there now, if I can get it to fit. There's the one. Yeah, let's get that. That should block pretty much everything that's going in there as far as dirt. These had two little pegs, but I hit a stick that was thick enough to break the pegs off of here, and this is a custom piece from the company that you can't find anywhere. that's the solution, is to drop, well, I drilled out the hole just ever so slightly, and then just drop a couple regular little bolts in there to help with the clamping. And that goes on. And that should be that. Small oil spill from it being on its side for like 4 days. Alright, so what's been going on with my exhaust on the Z ever since I have about 205,126 miles. And I have it jacked up because some stuff went down with my exhaust. Well, that being, it came apart. It really did come apart. Gotta tighten that up. Here we go. Here is the underview of what's left of my exhaust, because as you know, I welded the crap out of that side and it is still together. It looks like it's holding pretty strong. I haven't tested it since you jacked it up just now, but that little bubblegum job is holding pretty darn strong. But the side that I did not work on, as you can see, wire is hanging down. So you remember the episode where I was telling you that this was just kind of dangling on the ground with the O2 sensor and the O2 sensor bung hole. That got ripped out. It just fell out. I don't know exactly why, besides the fact that I've had this Flashark Racing Y pipe on here and it's been putting extreme stress on my test pipes. That one's doing fine. I welded that one. It's okay. This side though is going to need a lot of help because I can't really get the angle to show you, but if you can see that the whole O2 sensor, the extender bung, the bung itself, it actually just all ripped out and started dangling, and that's what that noise was, and then all of a sudden it just disappeared. And I don't see it behind anywhere. Oh man, this whole thing shifted over or something. Yeah, I'm going to do some exhaust work, and I think I have a very cheap solution because I think the bung holes, I had to order them, and at AutoZone, if you order them, they're 20 to 30 bucks. Online, Amazon, of course, is cheaper than actually buying it in store, but I did, if I can get this open while it's jacked up, it just makes the car door like 5 times heavier. And if you have a Z, these doors love to kill ankles and shins, all that good stuff. So let me politely let this slam and let a school bus that never goes by drive by. But this is my solution. I woke up one morning and I went to AutoZone, I went to Advanced Auto, none of them had it. I went to Napa, they didn't have it. I went to Lowe's, Home Depot, they didn't have anything. But the Hudson hardware store actually had this coupler, which this is an O2 sensor bung plug, and that's what I use to size it. It's not exactly correct, so I've still got to do a little bit of modifying because it is a little bit loose until you start tightening it up, and then you actually, like, you can feel the threads are, like, when you're there, it does not want to pull out whatsoever. Like, that is definitely tight, so it's just backing it up a little bit. It's going to have a little bit of play. So I'm going to see if I can actually squish this a little bit. This might seem awkward to trying to squish something this thick and metally, but I'm going to try and squish this so then this fits in just a little bit more snug. And this is going to be representing the O2 sensor that I'm getting ready to put back in there. So hopefully, I believe this was a 3/4 inch with 16 thread pitch. I think this is. I could not find anything metric to actually fit it because this is an 18 by 150, and I couldn't find anything in the store. Everything was everything around it. 16 150, the 20 150. Regardless, this is where I'm at. This was $7. So if I can weld that into the hole and maybe squish that up just a little bit to where this O2 sensor, I mean, this is a plug, but you know, when I put the actual O2 sensor in there, hopefully that'll work and squeeze it a little bit better, and I'll be able to weld this into the exhaust, which I'm getting ready to drop right now, so then I don't have to do that up there because I don't want to get burnt. I raised it up a decent amount off the ground, don't get me wrong, but still, I don't want to get burnt. I don't like getting burnt. I love being hot, but I hate getting burnt. So I'm going to go ahead and start modifying this, and then I'm gonna take that exhaust down and start modifying that, so then hopefully these two become a unit as one. I tried to choose something like this longer because the other side has an O2 sensor bung extender as well, if you can kind of tell right there. So I'm gonna go ahead and hopefully simulate the same thing. I might have to actually close this off just a little bit so then less air flows in this way, which once it's welded, I can't go in and change it. So I'm gonna go ahead and probably weld a small washer on the bottom of this so then less air gets on the inside of there, so then it simulates the other side with the extender there, and hopefully does a similar job, and it runs better and especially quieter, because my goodness, this thing could, it just wakes up, you know, the mummies in Egypt, you know, like it is crazy loud, like wow. Let me get to this and get started on this so then I can test drive it, because I'd like to not have wires hanging from my car, and I'd like to have all 4 O2 sensors that are supposed to be there instead of just the 3 that are hanging on. The 2 uppers are doing great. The one on the other side is doing okay. Like I said, it hasn't came apart. I haven't seen any leaks or anything like that. I am going to go up under there now and double check for any kind of leaks or anything like that on the US passenger side, but I'm going to go ahead and see what I can get done today. Already a little better, if you can see that, but it's a little bit loose now, but not as much. It's a little egg shaped now. I'll mess with that. I don't know if you can tell or not, but that's a little bit more egg shaped than before. Hopefully that'll work and grab it, because I'm going on with it. See what goes on, and if I can fix this with under $10 and some welding, of course, but see what I can get done. I'm getting ready to take apart that exhaust piece and take that test pipe down. So alright, so after struggling quite a little bit with an array of tools here, I did actually have to get out my half-inch tool here, but this is what happened. US driver side, this definitely not do well. Doesn't seem like there's any other stress points. Looking at the gaskets, there might have been just a hair leaking from the header side. That's just a hair there, but nothing substantial or anything. But on the downside of that test pipe, as you can see, that was leaking. Got that nice carbon footprint right there that allows to let you know what's going on, and just on the same backside, there it is right there. So that was gonna end up burning out literally right there. Luckily it's not. Still looks all good and everything, just needs to be cleaned up and maybe even tightened up or of some sort. So I'm gonna leave those off to the side and everything, but I'm gonna start to try and weld. That's the top side. This is quite big for this hole, but I think this is gonna work really well. So I can kind of put it something like that. Something I do have to watch out for is I might be able to see right there. There is a hairline crack starting right there. So I'm gonna have to weld down a little bit just to try and reinforce that as well and make sure that doesn't become a problem either. I don't see any other cracks or anything. Oh, yep I do. A little bit right there. You can see that little hairline crack. I've got a crack there, and I've got a crack coincidentally going the same way, almost like that was the split point right there. I'm gonna go ahead and weld those, get ready to weld this nice little piece in here, in which case I need to go find my O2 sensor, my old one, spare old one, so I can make sure that this is gonna fit in here, I'm pretty sure, and weld that into here and hope for the best. Gotta get it done. With the wires, or what's left of the wires, and in my drawer of old parts, here it is, the exact old one that I went and pulled out of there. I'm gonna go ahead and I've already tried to fit it in here. It does fit snugly once it gets all the way down in there. I'm gonna try that, because like I said, it's too loud. Now that I've got this prepped, and you can see that crack line down there and that crack, and this is gonna go something like that on an angle slightly. All right, well, got it done. It's still hot, still got the ground on there, but I got it brushed off. And this is what I've come up with. If this works, I think this is a great fix for 10 bucks, or under 10 bucks I should say. I looked at everywhere. I didn't smoke test it, but I looked all around it and it seemed like it's all solid, but it's all there. And now I'm going to go, yeah, that's really hot. I'm gonna go cool this down, and then I'm going to go ahead and put this back on the car. I'm not even gonna worry about trying to clean up all the extra bubble gum that doesn't necessarily strengthen it up anymore, but I am gonna just throw it on there to see if it works and see if it can hold for more than a few days. Sometimes with this type of metal here on the exhaust, for this test pipe, it is really thin. So it's hard to get this to stick and stay for long, but as you can see in areas here, the way it's puddled, it seems like it went through and actually bonded together. Hopefully I'm right. I'm not a welding specialist. I've been welding for a long time, but I have not taken any classes for welding. Harbor Freight welder, a lot of spatter, but it does get the job done. Hopefully this will hold. Alright, these are all the tools that I had to use. Well, my welder, I'm gonna grind it a little bit. There's a little bit of brushing and padding there, but just use that. I had to use my 1/2 inch for one of the bolts because it was a little bit tougher than the rest, but got it done, and it's all back down on the ground now. And now all I have to do is start it. See how it sounds now. Sounds so much better. It really does. Sheesh, that is so much better. So at least it isn't so annoyingly loud, it's just nicely loud, and actually comes with a decent amount of burble. I don't know if you want to call that burble or not, but I mean it sounds pretty darn good. It sounds aggressive. It doesn't sound like it's leaking from the front side anymore, especially not with a huge quarter size hole. Not quarter inch, like a US 25-cent quarter. Now that that's all figured out and everything, I do have to go inside and erase the code, see if anything pops back, because I do know that the evap on the canister on the backside is still bad, but there was an O2 sensor and codes that pretty much just led to what was going on with a humongous hole and missing O2 sensor. Besides that, I'm going to go ahead and erase the codes and take this one on a test drive to see how it's doing, but this one already I know sounds so much better. With that being said, I appreciate everybody watching, and you might notice a difference in the yard, but I can't necessarily talk about it yet, but I will be talking about it as soon as I can. Until the next time, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys.